When we come back, it is third Saturday in October, Hate Week, and we've got 30 minutes to spend on Tennessee and Alabama, and we will give you our picks for that game as well as the rest of the games around the SEC this weekend. We will be right back. Don't go anywhere. College football coming up next. Tennessee at Bama, revenge game. Joe Milton leads the Tennessee Volunteers into hostile territory in Tuscaloosa against Nick Saban, Jalen Milroe, and the Alabama Crimson Tide. I believe that this game, and we'll get deeper into this and the why behind it and all the little things that go into this, but I think the game purely rests on both quarterbacks' shoulders, which is the way that a lot of big games like this, it comes down to the quarterbacks. But this one specifically, I think, comes down to both quarterbacks, but specifically how both guys overcome their respective weaknesses and challenges, how they execute that day, their mindset that day, how they wake up and recognize this is what I need to do better today, and whether or not they're able to do so. For me, for Joe, I think it's purely mental. I think he gets too amped up. I think Joe gets excited to go out there and play with his guys. And I think before the game, you can see he's out there having a good time. Like, he's ready to go. And I think he maybe gets a little bit too over the top, a little bit too ready to go, and that results in some mental mistakes. So most of the time I would tell you for a big SEC football game, you want your guys like chomping at the bit, but with Joe, I think maybe a little bit of like specific, focused, repetitive going over like this is what I need to do in this moment this weekend, and being very, very, very focused on the task at hand, his job, and how to execute it at a high level.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like you said, you want your guy being ready to go, but also, I mean, Malachi Moore talked about it today, or not today, yesterday at the Bama press conference, and, you know, this kind of game, it's going to be a heavyweight fight. You can't get too high and too low. I mean, it's good for Milton to get amped up on it, but he's got to, compose himself and not get, too in the moment.
So we said that Joe's challenge is mental, and not an unintelligent kind of way, but a mental mistakes kind of way. Like, do your job, do it well, do it at a high level. Don't try to do too much, and maybe don't have those lapses. Don't have the lapses like when he ran out of bounds against Texas A&M instead of lowering his shoulder and picking up an easy first down, which caused them to miss out on points. So don't have the lapses, do your job, do it at a high level, and do it with consistency. And you said consistency was Milroe's hurdle this weekend.
Yes.
So how does that play into this game? What does Milroe need to do, and how does he become more consistent on Saturday?
I mean, just really trusting his reads, trusting in his offense, because last week against Arkansas, going into halftime, he was 7 for 10 for 215 and 2 touchdowns, no picks. And then in the locker room, it's like he took that and like threw it like out the window, and was, I think, 4 for 13 for 45 yards. That second half, he's got to just sit in there and do his job and remember, what he's doing. He also needs to start running the ball more, which he's not running the ball like at all the last probably 2 games or so. Everyone believes that he is partially injured, even though like Bama shut that down before the A&M game. But I'm starting to believe it myself because he's not running the ball as effectively, which I think that could really hurt us because Tennessee has a really good pass rush. But Miller has to stay consistent and trust his reads and his process.
Well, I think that the game itself rests on the shoulders of the two quarterbacks and how they're going to handle the moment. I think that's the quickest and easiest way to say it, is which quarterback grabs this moment and runs with it. Who handles the spotlight better on Saturday. And I think the key for Tennessee is early success. Bryant Denny is going to be loud, and Tennessee in this offense has struggled on the road in environments like this. I've heard some stats this week that really point in Tennessee's favor. Like, Alabama's one of 4 SEC teams that average less than 4 yards a carry, I think, was one of the stats that I heard. And I saw a chart that I sent to you where it showed the O-lines in the country, their pressure allowed versus sack ratio. And it was one of those charts where it's the 4 quadrants, and the further you are into the top right, the better you are. Top left, you're maybe good at one thing but not so good at the other. Bottom right, same thing, and then bottom left is you're allowing a lot of pressure and a lot of sacks. Texas A&M and South Carolina were both in that bottom left quadrant. And Tennessee's defensive line had a really good day against both of those teams. Alabama is also in that quadrant. So Tennessee's defense, and I think this is where the run game we talked about is so huge. You know now that the run game is going to get theirs. So you can lean on that. You can rely on that. You know that Jalen Wright, Jabari Small, Dylan Sampson, they're going to go out there. They're going to pick up first downs. They're going to get yards, and you can rely on them to keep the chains moving. So for Joe, you know that like I just said, the run game is there. Your defense will be there based on Alabama's offensive line struggles. Can you just execute your job at a high level consistently? And that's all he has to do is just his job. The more stats, like what I just broke down with the O-line and the run game, the more this points to Tennessee having a legitimate shot in this game. But the fact that it's at Alabama just really, I think, is something that's immeasurable, especially with this team's struggles on the road recently. But the other thing that I wanted to talk about is Alabama's offense. And how you and me have talked about this, they give up that pressure, so their offense looks like a run up the middle, a sack for like a loss of 10, and you think you've got them, and then they hit a 70-yard bomb over your head for a touchdown. So I want to see what you think about this. That offense operating like that versus the way that people attack Tennessee's defense, because the reason that Tennessee's secondary has seen such a resurgence this year is the level at which the front 4 are getting pressure on the quarterback. So what you have to do as the offense is get the ball out quicker, and that's only going to help your secondary, and that's why they're having such a good year, is they're not having to cover people down the sideline as much because the quarterbacks don't have time to throw those deep shots. They don't have time for the deep crosser. They're having to get the ball out quick. Florida got the ball out quick. It was all run. The run game was there because the defensive line had a pretty poor day. And so did the linebackers, and the tackling was not there. But honestly, that Florida game, I hate even using it as an example because everything went wrong. And that's another thing that Tennessee has to avoid is everything going wrong on the road. But if we take this team for what it is and what we've learned over the past few weeks, the way you attack it is you get the ball out quick because the defensive line will be there. And with Alabama's O-line, the defensive line will be there. So if Alabama's recipe for success is big plays and deep shots down the field, how are they going to be able to do that with the defensive line getting that much pressure on the quarterback if the way that you attack this offense is quick passes?
Yeah, I mean, I really don't know. I'll be honest with you. We did it really, really well against.
I'm just slowly moving you into a Tennessee pick. That's all. That's what the whole purpose of today was.
UC and A&M have very, very similar defenses, and Bama hit I think 6 or 7 like deep shots on them. I think Tennessee obviously has a better defensive front. So I think what you do is you hit some check downs, some short stuff to make them not stop rushing the guys much, but like having to watch for the check downs too. And at that point you get a one-on-one with like Burton and Kamal Haddon, and at that point that's in Bama's favor, in my opinion. So I think the big thing is getting the ball out quickly and making Tennessee's defense stay honest.
So that was Tennessee's recipe against Texas A&M that we talked about. That's what you and me thought they should do is, you use your receivers as an extension of the run game. You bring the front 7 in, and then maybe you hit shots down the field. And Tennessee wasn't able to do that and still won the game because their rushing attack was so good. So if, let's say, the pressure on Milroe is enough to, get him off platform and he's not able to set up and throw those deep shots, does Alabama have an alternative like Tennessee's run game that can get them out of a tough spot?
I don't know. I mean, the run game has been very, very inconsistent. Like I said, they were good last week, but the Arkansas defense and the Tennessee defense is just like miles apart. So if you get in that spot, I mean, I think there's a point where Milroe, he can make some deep shots. It's not near as consistent, but if they get Milroe on on his off game, I'm really nervous at that point, honestly.
And I think all this stuff we're talking about is why everybody expects this to be such a low-scoring game. And, I joked that I was trying to push you into a Tennessee pick. I don't think any of this stuff, guarantees a Tennessee win. I think it guarantees a low-scoring game. I think this will be an absolute rock fight, and that's why if you want to say 3 keys, the first key is Milton, the second key is Milroe, the third key, and this is for both teams.
Trenches.
For me, it's special teams.
Really?
It's field position, because if you turn the ball over, inside your own 45, all of a sudden this low-scoring game, they've almost got a free 3 points right there if they pick up a first down.
Yeah.
So you want to make the other team, both teams want to make the other team drive the full length of the field. Both teams need good punts, good punt coverage, good kick coverage, and no special teams lapses, especially on Alabama's end, because if you lapse for a second, D. Williams will make you pay. And I think that's another advantage that Tennessee has in this game is their special teams is rated really highly in national statistics. I'm not familiar with Bama's, but knowing the way that they build their roster, I'm sure they're up there as well.
They do have an All-American. He was second team All-American last year at returner, Cooley McKinstry. But also something I think that really goes in Bama's favor. It's kind of like an underrated factor that not many people are looking at is the fact that Bama has, in my biased opinion, probably the best kicker in the country, Will Reichard. That can
I don't think that's biased. I could definitely see that.
I mean, and he can hit stuff. I've seen him hit from like 57, 58, like near 60. So if you get the ball anywhere within like probably 60 yards, there's a good chance he's going to get you 3 points.
Unless it's like a 38-yarder at Tennessee going into the north end zone, then he pushes it wide right. But this is at Bryant-Denny, so I'm sure he's more comfortable there. But I that's why. I mean, obviously trenches are huge, but trenches are huge in every SEC game, and that's always going to be there. But I think the 3 keys for this one are Joe Milton, Jalen Milroe, and special teams. When we come back, we will have the full SEC picks for the weekend, including our third Saturday in October picks, and hopefully neither of us get too upset, but luckily there's a pretty thick table in between us. Last,
here we go,
and certainly not least, this could end the show forever, depending on how this next 30 seconds goes. We've got Tennessee traveling to Alabama for the third Saturday in October, revenge game for the Tide, and a huge game for Tennessee as far as the race for the East goes, because they are very, very much in it with a win this week in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, I mean, this is a really interesting game. You and me talked about over the break. I mean, there's a recipe for someone to get blown out and someone to just go out there and dominate. I mean, the room for error is microscopic. If Bama puts together a 60-minute complete game, the fact that it's in T-Town, if it was in Knoxville, I'd say something different. The fact that it's in T-Town, if they put together a full game, I think they win by 10 to 14 points, maybe 17. But they've not done that all year. They've been very, very inconsistent. So I have UT covering the spread, but I have indeed Roll Tide.
That's so disrespectful. And honestly, I saw it coming because you've been messing with your phone for like 30 seconds over there, like pausing for like 5 seconds, kind of like that between the stuff you were saying because you were too busy typing in whatever stupid elephant noise that was. And I was gonna be nice. I was gonna pick Alabama. I was gonna say like 28-24.
That's what I have.
Alabama.
That's what I have.
But just for that, I'm going 31-28 Tennessee with a last-second field goal to win the game. Roll Vols, baby.
No shot.
That is going to do it for us on the 24-48 show, third Saturday in October week. We will be back next week with all of the reaction from the big game this weekend. Whoever loses has to post a picture of them in the other team's gear. So you will see us before Monday if you check our socials, but be sure to be here on Monday as we react to the biggest game of the weekend, the third Saturday in October. We will see you Monday night. This is the 24-48 show on WMTS Murfreesboro. I am Adam Brown. My producer is Connor Smith. See y'all next week. God bless.